welcome everyone.
Yo, what's up? Hi.
Yo guys, what's up?
Yeah, I'm Bengi.
My name is Loyle Carner.
Gabriel Moses.
Yay. Yeah. I don't know, shall I just start asking them questions? Good idea, right? Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk to you both. And nice to meet you all. Let's just first of all. Yeah. To kick things off, how do each of you perceive the current creative landscape at the moment, where fashion, music, and art increasingly overlap? And what do you think are the opportunities and challenges that arise from these intersections?
I think the landscape is great.
What?
I think the landscape is amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Never before has there been so much space to be individual, you know. I think before, speaking only for music really, because that's what I see all the time, but it's no longer like you have to be part of a genre or a group or a movement, you know. People are kind of buying into an individual, no matter what that individual is excited by or what they want to express, you know. And I think that's quite an exciting place to be, because before it was always about what pigeonhole can we put you in and what can you attach to, whereas now it's like, who are you? I don't care what music you make, what art you make, what you look like, just who are you? So I think that's quite exciting, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think like for years I've always kind of like worked hand in hand, you know. They all kind of like help each other, and like as like artists, I feel I've for years like kind of always wanted to be like just a fashion photographer, you know, and I was like music videos, and like that kind of like led to me doing music videos. Do you get what I'm saying? Like the fashion stuff. So I think it's an example of kind of like how the two kind of like work hand in hand, you know, and kind of like interchange. So it's one of those.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of what you said as well. It feels like it's not about intersections and interactions, and more we just look at the artist and what they do in silos or in genres, or like we don't look at the form or the, you know, we don't go, yeah, you're a visual artist, you're a musician, you're a poet, or you're a film director, and just embrace the artists as they are with whatever they want to give back to the, or interact however they want to interact with the audiences.
Yeah, and as an artist, that's really liberating, right? Because then you're able to do what an artist is supposed to do, which is just express themselves, no matter the medium, you know. It's really easy to feel like as an artist, you have to stay in the lane that you're in, you know? And I think it's so wonderful at the moment that it's expected and welcomed that artists can bounce between, you know, even if it's just as simple as going from photography to film and back and forth, you know, whatever it is, these are mediums that are connected but shouldn't be, you know, seen as exactly the same. And it's nice to be free to do that without people going, why the fuck are you doing that? You're supposed to be doing this over here, you know? Sorry for swearing. I don't know if that's a problem, but I do that.
So basically, I think it's also music, fashion, and art. And music is probably the entry point when you think about contemporary culture. Maybe film is also very accessible. But fashion, these three things especially, are very, very accessible. And they definitely intertwined with culture, contemporary culture in particular. So what role do you see your work kind of playing in reflecting this cultural zeitgeist or shaping it? Like, how do you kind of respond to cultural shifts in your creative process?
Do you know, with me, it's important to be aware of like cultural shifts and things like that, but I don't think as artists your job is to necessarily always react to that, because trends exist for a reason, and I feel like the audience will like skinny jeans one day, like baggy jeans the next day, you know. But it's the job of the artist to tell you for the next 5 years you're wearing baggy jeans. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, so I think as artists we have to be creators and kind of like set the pace for a lot of like these things, you know. Like with myself, I've always been like, okay, this is how my work is gonna look, and if 5 people love that, that's my audience, you know, and that's gonna grow and grow and grow. And I feel like as artists we have to be like brave enough to be like, okay, this is how it's gonna be, and like stand on that and be confident with that, you know. So yeah,
I agree. I have nothing to add. Yeah, I agree. I don't think you really want to be trying to follow what is happening or what is current or what is exciting, because that is, you know, if you're underneath the surface, then you're bubbling over. But as soon as you hit the wave and you are the thing that's super exciting and current, that's going to crash and it won't be around afterwards, you know. And if you're hoping to do it because you love to do it, that's not a good way of approaching making this thing, you know, because it's going to disappear.
Probably takes away from the authenticity as well. But I always see the artists as the wave makers in a way, not like catching the wave, but actually creating the wave in a way. So it's not basically reflecting on the culture, but creating that kind of reflection, I feel.
Yeah, holding up a mirror to society almost, you know, in different ways. And I guess you are not watching what's happening within culture specifically, but you are watching the world and reflecting that and what you see, you know. And probably if you're an artist that is trying to do it with some meaning, trying to shine a light on things that people are not seeing, you know, more than I'm not trying to show people what they already know, you know. I'm not trying to show them TikTok dances and all that. I'm trying to show them the things that maybe, you know, just behind the curtain or just past the window that you just saw, there's something else there that's maybe more meaningful, more hopeful, more painful, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah. Where do you find the influence or inspiration in terms of when it comes to these things that we're talking about? Do you feel that they are affecting your kind of creative process in terms of art, music, fashion, or?
My right now, but it changes. Influence changes, you know, depending on the year or the season or the day, you know. But mine consistently, I think, is my children now, because they see the world in such a different way. And I think a lot of artists are trying to get back to a stage in their life when they, you know, they're trying to get back to how they used to create before they were thinking about being a creative, you know. So I'm trying to do what my son is doing, because he looks at the world with such big eyes and sees things that I don't see. So I'm trying to just notice the things that he noticed, you know. So when we go to the park, the other day there was like this, we were walking down Broadway Market, and there's the little Italian restaurant, right? And there's all these red chairs, super like bright, like wicker red chairs. And the sun was shining through the red chair and it was creating this like big red sun on the floor. And I walked over it and my son was like, "Why are you walking on that?" And I was like, "What is it? What is it?" And he's like, "There's a sun there, the floor's lava." But I just thought it was so beautiful that, like, you know, there's a whole world happening, you know, that like kids are seeing that we're not seeing. And I really, really want to see it. So I'm trying my best to see it. So yeah, my kids. Yeah.
Yeah. How about for you?
In terms of my influences, it's a bunch of things. I'm a spectator. I'm definitely a spectator. In terms of like the early influences were a lot of like the women in my life, you know. So my grandma, my mother, they allowed me to almost see the world in pink, you know. From everything, my mum being a flower arranger and like having a very good appreciation of colour from very early, you know, or my sister studying fashion and like my PlayStation being in her bedroom, you know, and that would have me, whilst not caring about art whatsoever, but seeing something every day as a child kind of like defined my taste. And kind of growing up in a certain environment and not really being around that stuff, the second I started taking photos, I naturally had a taste for this stuff. And that was like a complete accident, but I had an identity, like an artistic identity from very early. And I was very confident in that just because of the way they'd speak to me. Like my mum would tell me like, "You're the best in the world," before I'd even started. Does that make sense? So I've always like had a lot of like kind of like greatness kind of like pushed into me from very young. So it meant that second I like started doing this, I was kind of like fearless in the way I was going to be like, "All right, when I take photos, you're going to see half the clothes, you know? And like, I don't care what anyone else is doing, but you're going to come here and this is what it's going to be like, you know?" And like kind of like being like that was like a massive influence. And also growing up in South London, you hear Rio Ferdinand grew up in this area and Naomi Campbell's from Croydon, and like you almost grow up with like a confidence, like, and like I could say you're growing up in South as well, and you just believe anything's possible because so much of like the black Brits who were doing things happen to be from South London. So my influences a lot of the time were like real people like outside of what I do specifically, and I was able to kind of like channel it into like my art, the same way it could be a musician and all of these different things, or how when I'm listening to Hometown Glory on the train I feel like I'm in the music video. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like you just, all of these different things, like that was like a lot of the influences, or watching the advert and thinking, I'm not a director, but if I was, I'd do it like this, you know. And the second you actually get that platform, you get to be the child, you know. And I still work like a child, the same way like Loyle was talking about his son, you know. I try to keep that like childish energy where you dream, because as adults we become too calculated. Nah, it's not real. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, people can't fly, but as artists, you got to work like a child. Like, why not throw someone up in the air? You know, all of these different things is like how I try and carry myself. So many of my influences come from my surroundings and my environment, really.
Cool. I mean, I love your mum. I wish I was born in South London, but I wasn't. Like, if she could give me that confidence as well. But so. Also, you say like you see half of the clothes, but then again, when I look at also other stuff that you do, there's this kind of storytelling in it. Yeah. You can see the characters basically, and you can imagine what's happening there in a way as the eye looking at it. And then you have, like, as a fashion photographer as well, or you're also an artist, like, do you feel the behind the scenes, because that actually causes that authenticity as well? I feel it's as compelling as sometimes as the output.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I think also on my side, how I feel about BTS, a lot of the time I don't actually have it, because I also sometimes don't want people to. The second you understand exactly how something was made, you look at it differently, you know. Like, I remember like one of my first like jobs with a house was I did like B Unit on the Open Spaces campaign, and I'm like seeing that, and that was one where the people were flying and and I was like, oh my days, it's so annoying that I know that they were on wires. Do you get what I'm saying? And like, and the cranes swinging them around, like, and I'm like, sometimes from an audience perspective, I want people to be able to just see it for what it is. Yeah, they're flying. Yeah, they're really flying. Do you get what I'm saying? So there's like a balance. I feel like the way in which I use social media, the way in which I speak, humanizes things and brings you closer to the art. And I feel like sometimes the behind the scenes, like, I don't know how you feel like sometimes with your process, you know, and like there's certain things that I feel like should be kept a secret for the audience to actually be able to experience it at its fullest, you know? And then there's times where it's like, okay, I'm going to give you a window into how this was made, because, you know, like, it's important for you for reasons of inspiration or for you to feel closer to it. This is why we're going to allow this to be seen, you know? So it's kind of like a 50-50 when it comes to like behind the scenes and things like that.
I think that's like one of the only times to be calculated, when you're showing people like how the magic works, you know, because you don't really want to know. When I was younger, if I saw someone doing a magic trick, I don't want to know. Like, my dad used to do an amazing one with a coin on his arm, and then now I know how it works now, and I do it with my son, but he doesn't know, and I don't want him to ever know because he thinks I'm magic, you know. Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the only times to really decide, you know, when it comes to online, you can decide what people see and they don't see, and it's really rare that you get that. So to utilize that and not give it away so freely, because things are so disposable right now, you know, to hold on to some things and keep them just for you, even if it's not to stop people from seeing it, but just so you have something, you know. There's some things I've made that I want people to hear or see or watch, but I also would rather the feeling of walking in the park and knowing that it's mine forever, you know. So it's a balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think the balance is, as you say, utilizing it also. Yeah. The balance is very important, because from a fan perspective, I think if the people want to be, I feel, closer to or get to know the personal lives of the people that they admire, or how they work, or like whoever they want to see on that screen, they want to be just that authenticity, that sincerity being there. Mm-hmm. I feel they want. So, for instance, me seeing you cycling in Victoria Park just makes a difference for me as a fan, let's say. But I think you're right, it's just the balance that is very important.
That's perfect though, because my son, I was on my bike, right? And my bike has my child's seat for my son. But my son wasn't on the seat. So it's like I'm deciding, yes, I want you to know that I'm a father and that I cycle through this park to take my son to nursery. But I don't want you to actually see my son, you know? It's just a balance always of how much you give to tell the story, you know?
it's a perfect example,
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, when you talks about like how everything is disposable at the minute, and how basically social media is changing the way we kind of reshaping how people, I don't want to use the word consume maybe, but how we interact with art, how we swipe through it, how we listen to songs, the 3-minute songs, etc., 14-second videos. How has the rise of these platforms kind of influenced your approach to either creating music or visual imagery? Have they had an impact on?
Yeah, no, 100%. In two ways. There's times where it's like, for example, I make a load of like 15-second videos that I just need to exist. You know, no one asked me to make it. There's no reason for me to make it. I'm just like, it just needs to exist. And like, you're world building by creating that and just putting that out, blasé. But at the same time, there's times where I'm quite old school and like an appreciation for certain things needs to be had. So it's like, I might hold on to a shot for 30 seconds. And it's just that one shot, you know. And it's like, if you want to keep on scrolling, you keep on scrolling. But the 5 people that stay, that's my audience, you know. And it's like, understand and not feeding too much into the trends and all of these different things. Because as I say, like, if I'm on TikTok, I know I'm just scrolling because I've seen something cool, I'm going to see something cool again in another 5 seconds, you know. So I feel like if we allow that to dictate too much of the way in which we create, we end up becoming a victim to all of that, you know, at the same time. So again, it's a balance, you know, but I feel in terms of the way I use the internet, there's so much more power to the artist, you know. Like, I don't need to wait for it to be in the magazine, you know. Like, I can actually just be that platform myself, and I can definitely say like I've like benefited a lot of the internet, you know. And maybe if that didn't exist, like I wouldn't be here speaking to you about my work. Does that make sense? So it's important because people like myself and Loyle are able to just kick down a door that maybe wouldn't have been handed to us if not for us having a platform where we could just do what we want, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Gives you the freedom as well. Yeah.
It's like a 50-50, like Gabriel's saying, because in one way it really makes me want to rebel against it too, you know. When everything is so short format, it makes me want to make things that are longer, you know. And I don't know, it's made me think a lot. What Gabriel's film, the Sims film that you made, the album film, right, was a big inspiration for me, because it was something that I think film is one of the last mediums that really, like in a cinema in particular, has to hold your attention. You know, you're going to this place, you know, you can't really leave unless you want to miss the film, you know. Like, you have to be there, you have to digest it in one go. You can't have your phone out, really, you know. It's one of the few places we have left. And I think that music for sure at the moment is kind of in a weird place, a great place, like you're saying, in some ways, of many people are able to expose themselves quickly and reap the rewards of the hard work they've been doing. But at the same time, because it's so disposable, like, for how many people can it last that long, you know? And I find it so difficult, because for me, I want to make things that capture people's attention, and you know that there's like a element of trust. Like with an album, you make an album and you give it to someone, you go, I'm trusting you to listen to this and consume it in one go. Do you know what I mean? But now things don't work like that. So yeah, it's pushed me to look into places where I can find a space to go against what is short, you know, because I think people actually really want things that are longer. You can't really find it because everything is catered to like swiping, you know. So yeah, I think what I'm liking the most at the moment is things that are outside of my phone, you know, going to see a play, going to watch a movie maybe. Things that happen like in front of my eyes. Yeah.
Slow down a little bit as well.
Yeah. But it is also an amazing thing. I feel bad, you know, shitting on it, but it's also like maybe our generation is quite lucky because we just caught onto it before it became such a yeah. You know, because now you have to, I don't know, that a lot of musicians I know, they're like better at making like little snippets on Instagram than they are at making music. Do you know what I mean? And that's the wrong way around. That's what they're putting all their focus into, because I got this one amazing song, but someone's like, that's great, now give me like 30 videos about that song. And it's like, I want to give you 30 more songs. So yeah, I think a shift needs to happen. But how? I don't know.
It becomes a different kind of an outlet suddenly.
Yeah, which is great in some ways.
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, I personally struggle with attention after especially the pandemic in terms, and now this kind of short form, I feel this kind of putting fire to that, like attention disorder in a way.
Yeah.
I feel. Do you feel that because do you feel that too, or like can you, because I know you have ADHD and you do a lot to help people struggling with that as well.
Yeah, we have a cooking school for kids with ADHD.
Exactly.
And we set it up just because, like, I don't know, a lot of chefs I was meeting seem to be neurodiverse in some way, but it's a great job because it's so physical and all encompassing that it's kind of like meditation for them, you know, and for the kids. But the best thing about it is, you know, there's no phones in the classroom. There's a lot of knives, but it's like no one's ever got cut except for me actually. But it's one of those things where when you have something that captures your entire attention, you can be in it for a long time, you know, like a super focus. And I think that's what I'm trying to refine with art is trying to find things that can hold people's attention for a long time, because I guess it's like a muscle, right? For us, it must be the same for you. Like, I feel the same when I go online. I don't want to, I have to kind of like fight the temptation to swipe, or to, if I'm watching a video, to skip forwards, you know, because you didn't used to have that power. If I put the VHS in, it was long to like skip it forward. You know, it wasn't as easy to just skip it forwards. And I didn't know exactly where I was when I would lose my place. So I'm trying to retrain myself now how to be patient, because you miss all of the best bits when you skip something, or you try and get the gist of it, or you read you do the audio book or whatever. There's little bits that you miss, and I don't want to miss those bits.
Yeah. Imagine someone coming from the cassette era like me. Turn it to the other side. Yeah. Thank you. How do you approach creating work that remains impactful and meaningful in a landscape where attention spans are like shorter, like we talked about right now?
Do you know what? That's the agenda, like regardless, like any project like I work on, that's like the agenda is, are we creating timeless work? And if not, we don't do it, you know? Like, let's say I've always seen myself as an artist, and so when I look in my studio, I've got books of people that aren't alive anymore, and when I look back at their career, I'm like, they shot 0 campaigns in their life, but 100 years later, I'm here with their book. Or do you know what I'm saying? All of these different things, or like other kids will have their book, so their work is living beyond today because of like the actual essence of it, you know. So I've always been about, okay, is this image in 25 years, are we going to be able to look back at this and think, okay, that was a moment, you know, remember that time Gabs did this or that. So it's like kind of like picking your moments and kind of like making the art number one. But I'm like an old soul, I'm like an old man like trapped in a young person's body. I've always been like, yo, since like very young, I was like, does it look good? Yes or no? If not, it should never see a light of day. Like, and that's how I've always kind of like been with my work, because you've got to look at the stuff today 25 years in the future and see like how does that resonate, you know. Like a good image lasts forever, and I feel just because of as long as I've been in this and I've studied people, I've been like, why am I here looking at an image that was shot 50 years just because it still speaks to me today? It's timeless, you know. So yeah, it's about like just working, like putting that, I'd put a lot of pressure on myself to always try and operate at a high level, and the same way I'm very honest, if I don't think I can create something that I'm proud of, I'm happy to say, nah, do you know what I'm saying? And that's no weakness to me, it's more just like I can't see anything to that, you know. And that was always my thing with like music videos, like I really wanted to do them when I was super young, but I can love a track, but I can't see anything to it. So and even he's talking about Sims, and with that I was like, okay, Sims came with the album and it was like, okay, like, what do you think we should do? And I was like, why don't we just make a film that has all of the tracks in there pretty much? Like, do you know what I'm saying? We play like 5 tracks and it just goes through there. Just because I'm like, the same way Loyle was saying, back in the day, you'd have to wait for something to come. Like, you know, like you'd be on MTV waiting for your favorite music video to come, and you might not see it again for another 5 hours. So you valued that experience, you know. But now if it's like, I know I could search up your video whenever I want on YouTube, I might never watch it because of all the power I've been given. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's like, how do we create moments that keep people locked in? So it's understanding, working from an artist's point of view, but also understanding the audience and the psychology of an audience by just thinking, how do I think about stuff, you know? Like, why is Thriller so great? Because it was a moment, you know, like, you had to take your time and take it in, you know? And I feel like when things sometimes become too disposable, it can end up being not really a problem, but it just the work ends up being undervalued. So like the agenda always is like, how are we creating something that is pushing something like every time? And that's how I approach projects. Like when we did Fiend, I was like to Travis, the camera's not gonna stop spinning. I know it sounds crazy, but the camera's not gonna stop spinning. And if you commit to watching it, you're locked in. And if not, that's okay, because not everyone is meant to see it or take it in. Or sometimes they might see it 20 years later, and that's the time for it, you know? Like, work should just be seen as, I've put it out now. The work is going to live longer than we do. Yeah. And there's power in that, you know? So.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Agree.
Yeah.
There's like a 2-stage process as well, like you were saying about releasing, is that the first step is to make it true for yourself, you know what I mean? So you make it, and I make loads of stuff that I think is amazing at the time, and then on reflection is terrible. And then that's where the second step comes in on refinement. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I would never stop myself from making something because I think it's rubbish. You know, if I am enjoying it, even if it is far away from what I would usually do or what people would expect from me, I'll still see that idea through, because I owe the idea that respect to do it, you know. But then when it comes to the second step of releasing, that's when you can go, okay, like you're saying, that's when I'll then be harsh on myself, you know. So I'm not so much like, I won't do it because it's not right, but I'll wait and see if it's right or not once it's done, and then go, this is not right, put it in the pile with the rest of the ones that are not right, you know. I think it's interesting too what you're saying about like stuff that's timeless, and really there's an idea I've been thinking about a lot recently about things. Everything right now feels so finished and polished and, you know, like expensive looking, and I think that's why it's so hard to feel connected to it, because a lot of the stuff that we consumed maybe, and still the stuff that I love that I consume now, the stuff that moves me the most is new and old, is the things that are unfinished, which kind of leave space for me to finish them. You know, like if someone has dialed everything in, every detail, every single thing, they've thought of everything, there's no reason that I'm not part of the conversation with that piece of art. You know, like if I go to see something and there's something missing, my imagination can fill it. Do you know what I mean? So I like that. I'm trying to do that more. It's very hard to do that, but to not overcomplicate what's there, but to give a little bit and go, here's 50% of this conversation. Please have it with me, you know? And everyone who consumes it will have a different conversation with you, you know?
So is that kind of like a way of engaging with your audiences and your fans as well, you think?
Yeah, leave space for them, yeah.
Leave space for them to complete the picture in a little, yeah.
Yeah, well, just leave space to, like, you know, I think sometimes a lot of my favourite singers, some of them can't sing, but a lot of them, like, I can't really understand what they're saying. And I love that, because I might catch 2 or 3 words and the rest of the story is mine. And then I say to my girlfriend, oh, I love that song because it's about X, Y, and Z. And she goes, no, it's not. It's about this. And if you ask my mum, she would say something completely different. And I think that is the beauty is the point of all this, you know, is to have like a root in the middle of everyone, and everyone finds like a common thread, but then you make it your own. All the things that I love the most, I don't really know what it's about, but I know what I think it's about, you know?
Yeah, it's a feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also. So, how important is engaging with your audiences is to you, both of you? And does it shape your work at all, or is it like shape it like in the sense of this is a conversation and I'm leaving it open for you?
Face to face, I would say, is like the most important thing for me. But online, yeah, I kind of don't engage with it as much. But I try, because I'm bad at being online. I make a conscious effort to be more present, you know, at shows, in the street, whatever.
I'd say it's a balance. Like the same way I'm like, yo, if I'm gonna hold on to a shot for 30 seconds and that's the video, the 5 people that stay, that's my audience, you know, and that grows and grows and grows. And there's an element of looking after that, but also the same way the job of an artist is to keep on pushing and keep on pushing, you know, and almost show people this is what you like today, you know. So it's one of those, but I also feel like keeping the audience in mind is super important, but they're an audience for a reason, because there's something within the essence of you that they connect with, you know. And And I feel like sometimes when you allow that to dictate the art too much, you can lose a sense of yourself, you know? And it happens so much. And it's an easy kind of like trap to fall in as an artist, you know? But I feel like you've got to remain absent-minded from a lot of things in order to create like pure work, you know? But my thing, I love the internet. You get what I'm saying? I'll bust joke, all of that kind of stuff like on the internet. But purely because sometimes I understand that I know how I am. I'm a very relaxed and chill person. So when people maybe see like the work, they assume I'm like, I behave like an artist. Does that make sense? And I feel like sometimes intentionally I need to enforce that, I'm not that guy, you know? And because I know there's a kid like me that sees like me, that doesn't look or speak like people think artists should speak like. So I've got to intentionally show you, we can behave, be respectful, you know, have your manners, but be yourself at the same time. So sometimes I'm intentionally very blasé on the internet just because I know what it means in the grand scheme of things.
So basically, you said push yourself in a way as an artist, pushing yourself. So what do you think are the kind of the exciting potential for collaborations where you can push, and what kind of innovations excite you the most coming up for you to go to that like next level?
Do you know what it is? I grew up and I loved the idea of Spike Lee having his own Jordan, or when he did Jordan commercials, it was a moment that Spike Lee like he had the cultural. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like he transcend the same way. If I'd ask my auntie about David Beckham, she'd go crazy, but she doesn't care about football. But David Beckham transcends the sport of football, you know? And being a photographer and growing up in South London, like they'd call it a cameraman. Do you get what I'm saying? It's almost seen as like a... So like all of these different things, I'm like, there's so much space to... Like I grew up thinking a rapper or a footballer, you know? And now there's going to be a generation of kids that want to make clothes or paint or take photos, you know? And for that to be seen as like a cool thing to do or cool space to enter. And the same way I'm like, I don't have a divine right to take photos or make films. I'm just have a creative mind. So if that transcends itself in a space of sculpture or in garments, that can also manifest itself. And I think it's important to be someone who... I'm an open book in terms of like, if I try and do anything, I'm going to do my homework and then come out and try and do the best to, like, do stuff to the best of my ability. Like people like Virgil's a great example of that, where there's no rules. You just live and breathe creativity, you know? So I feel like people like him have opened a door where there's literally no rules in terms of who can do certain things or who believes they can do certain things as well.
Yeah, I don't know I think it's just... I was going to ask you actually how you find a way... It's from just like answer a minute ago, but how you find a way to not focus on the audience, you know? Because I think that's the thing that all artists struggle with.
Do you know? Because I started at 18 and talking the way I talk, looking the way I look. And now people get it because the work is there. Does that make sense? But when you're an 18-year-old kid talking about, I'm just trying to shoot a fashion editorial and I'm there with my hood up and people don't get it, you know? And human beings are visual. If I tell you I can fly, you're going to be like, fly then, you know? So I understand that side of things. So I grew up working angry and being like, they don't get it. So I had to I'd do like a Nike job, and then with like my fee from that, I'd go like with my DP and we just make something just independent. Do you get what I'm saying? So I can put out the ideas that no one would give me the opportunity to do. And really like my thing, that first page of my book says, who can't hear must feel, because that is the story of my career. It's like, they won't hear it, but they'll feel it, you know? And then everything else will make sense, you know? So I almost had to show you what I can do because it wasn't going to get taken in any other way. And I still have that energy of just ambushing everyone with work. And that's why I say I still have to remain myself, because people see the image and I'm working so it can sit alongside the legends or all of these different things, but you need to understand that that's a brother from South London, you know, and it's a bigger message. So it's one of them, like, I've always just kind of had to do it, and now you could say I don't have to, but I still have that same like kind of like raw energy, and I feel like it's also needed because so many of us, when we kind of get to that space, we get comfortable and we're like, yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? But I like kind of like working aggressively, almost like I'm still like in my head. I'm like, they still don't get it. Do you get what I'm saying? So that's what keeps that energy, and I guess like you become desensitized to the achievements, you know. But you have a bigger like mission. I'm like, I want to be the best in the world, and that's what kind of keeps me going. Just because I come from like a football background, so I'm like super like, yo, I'll be watching football and I'll get frustrated and I'll be like, he's crap, but he plays for England. Do you get what I'm saying? So I understand the concept of making it, but you still have to perform at a level every game, you know. Like people have agendas on Messi. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you can't do it in this, you can't do it in that, you know. So it never stops. So I look at that. Just growing up and loving football, I still keep myself in that headspace where it's like, yeah, I know we're at Real Madrid, but have you scored 40 goals this season? You know. Yeah, it's just like that. You have to.
I'm not going to go into football talk, but maybe later on we might. I love football. Yeah. So feels like you maybe answered this question as well a little bit right now. But what kind of advice both of you would have? Because you were talking about kind of being a role model in a way. Yeah. Like you need to go for it, you need to concentrate, you need to push for it, work hard, etc., and also be yourself unapologetically, in a way. But what kind of advice would you give to emerging artists in your own respective fields, or just like any artist, basically? Let's not put them in boxes. When the kind of the pressures of the entertainment industry is sometimes pushing for commercial, but you want to stay authentic, you want to stay true yourself and do your own thing. What kind of advice would you give the newcomers?
I don't know. I think like the advice I would have wanted to get when I was younger was, I felt like a real pressure to produce a certain type of art because of the way I looked and where I was from, and to speak in a certain way and all these things. And I found it really difficult, and still do. I think I'm getting better at it as time goes on, but to really be myself. And that's, you know, it's tried and tested advice, right? But it's really hard to take and to implement. And I think I would love for someone to have kind of sat me down when I first started and been like, all the things that you do that you're embarrassed about, that maybe kids picked on you for, or whatever, those are the best bits. So use those, you know. Like even the challenge, it's almost like people not believing in Gabriel was like a privilege for him, because it was the thing that gave him the thing that other people didn't have, you know. So I think whatever it is, that's individual to you, the way you're being treated, where you live, how you look, how you sound, you know, what your interests are. If it's different to other people, then that's great, you know. And it's not even about trying to make everyone see it, but just like, I think be yourself. But also, like, someone said this to me the other day. They were talking about making films. I can't remember who it was as a director, but they were saying that they were really upset they made their first film, and it was rubbish, and they were super upset because their taste was a lot better than their skill set at the time, you know. So they knew exactly how they wanted it to look, but they hadn't done enough hours of training in a dojo to know how to make that yet. And I thought that was great advice, to trust your taste, and not, if you make one thing, be like, oh, it's rubbish, I'm rubbish, but know that your taste is the thing that will carry you through as your skill set gets better and better, you know. So trust your taste, follow the things that you love, and you will continue to make stuff that's, you know, at some point half decent, I hope, you know.
Yeah, I'm a back loyal on that, like trusting your taste. And like one of the things, like my mum would always tell me, my mum was very relaxed in terms of what career I wanted to do. She was just like, whatever you decide to do, just like be really good at that. And that's not like a pressure, it's more just put the time in order. It's like you revise, you get A. Do you get what I'm saying? Like if you really do it, it comes out. Do you get what I'm saying? So like that was always like what she'd push with me. In the same way, like when I speak to kids, I'm like, yo, focus on levels first and foremost, not the noise. Focus on levels, you know. It's like, and art's subjective, so there's no good or bad, you know, but we have a rough idea what a good track is, what a good painting is. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, let's be real, you know. So it's just like with kids, sometimes it's like with the internet and all the noise and that you focus on opportunity rather than yourself, you know? And it's like, it may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, but if you're really good at what you do, when it hits, it's gonna come like an avalanche. Does that make sense? And you don't want to be opportunity to opportunity purely because like I always say, I hate sympathy opportunities. Like, just, do you like my stuff? Do you like me? Let's go, you know? Because like for kids, it's like if you knew the conversations that happen in the room before a decision is made about who's directing that campaign or who's gonna win this award, you wouldn't focus on any of that stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? I feel like you just have to live and breathe levels, you know? You just have to, and then from there, people connect with good stuff. It doesn't go by, you know? And again, there's no time frame on that. It might take 20 years. There's certain people that blow up in their 40s, you know, 50s. So just focusing on making good, honest work, you know, and then from there, like anything else will come. Just because there's so much wishy-washy stuff in general, and you can't focus on that.
And to enjoy the process. That's the main, you know, like not to do it for the art of releasing it, but for the art of making it. Do you know what I mean? I think there's so much pressure on what happens on the day something comes out. It's like, oh, this is my release day, this is my release party, blah, blah, blah. But you know, like the 6 months, the 2 years, 3 years, 10 years before that, that's where you have to find the joy, you know, because that's what you're going to spend the most time doing. You're not going to spend your whole life at premieres or at gigs or whatever, you know, at exhibitions. You're going to spend it in the studio, in the room, in the office, in your bedroom, whatever, making it. So enjoy making it, because that's the best bit, and that's the bit that your life is going to be full of, you know.
That is mad true. Like, yeah, again, so many people see those little things, but I'm like, that's 30 days out of 365, you know? It's like, I'll be on set and I'm like, this is so boring all my days. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, or by the time something comes out, I shot it 4 months ago and I'm sick of it. Does that make sense? So it's just like, all of that stuff is like, when you just love what you do, you just kind of get it done, you know? And that is real life. Real life isn't the highlight reel stuff.
One last question, if I may. So if you were to leave these people, the people who are watching or listening, with one thought on how your respective creative fields can continue to inspire and evolve together, what would it be?
Listen to the kids.
Listen to the kids? Your kids?
Yeah, just my kids. Just listen to my son.
Yeah, no, facts. Listen to the kids or be a kid yourself, you know? Like, break away from how calculated adults are and just dream and feel, you know? Because that's what kids do. When kids think something isn't nice, they say it. Does that make sense? Like, and I feel like as adults, we start to become too calculated, and sometimes it like stops us from actually just pushing forward, you know? So it's like, yeah, be more like a kid.
Literally. It's a simple, like physically as well, like get down to their level and see the world from down below. Do you know what I mean? Everything's awesome down there. It really is.